Hey, it's Jeremy and Amanda, your family-friendly morning show on 91.3 WCSG. Thank you for spending some time with us today as we are in a coffee conversation with Taya. She's part of the Hillsong group, doing a solo project. Taya, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you for having me.
It has been quite a journey for you. You started with Hillsong, working in youth ministry, and then you began singing, and now you're stepping out on your own, doing a solo project. Tell us about your new song, what it's called, what it's about.
Yes, for sure. It is For All My Life, and it is a song about the faithfulness of God. We wrote it on the last day of writing for this album, and classic God, it's always, we talked about that a little bit before, that it's always usually in the 11th hour that he comes through, and it's his faithfulness that just overrides anything that we could do, or even when we think that we're being faithful, he's just like, no, let me show you what faithfulness is. And that was God's kindness to us. And it was written with Hank Bentley and John Guerra, and we just had this conversation about what God had done in my life up until now, and being a part of Hillsong Church, and moving down to Sydney and getting to be part of the youth ministry, and then eventually coming on staff and getting to sing Oceans, and which completely changed my life. I will forever love that song. And I also feel like God reminded me at the start of this season of stepping out to do a solo project. God was like, hey, you sung this song that has become a prayer, and you've sung it hundreds of times, and it still is not old, and it's just in a new season. And I have sung that bridge so many times of Oceans, where that I would have the trust in God where I have no backup plan, that we would go where he's calling us, wherever he'd lead us, and that the prayer is that he would continue to take us deeper in our revelation of who he is, and then also just in our trust that he's going to meet us right as we're out in the waves, even if we're sinking, like if we just look up, he's right there. And so classic God, that he's like, this is the next thing. Still part of United, still part of Hillsong Church, and I love it, but I feel so privileged to get to, for the first time, steward my own songs and tell people about who Jesus is to me, and my own words and my own melodies, and we get to start it all off with For All My Life.
So you talked a bit about a season of transition, moving into a solo project. You also did a big move to the United States. Now you live in California from Australia. What has God taught you in this season of transition?
Yes, well, God actually speaks, and if we would put the time aside to wait upon him, it's an active wait. But he's so amazing that he's not a God who is deaf, and he's not a God who is dumb that he doesn't speak. But I know it sounds like so cliche and like simple, but before I started this whole project about 2 years ago, I asked God for a word. And it was at our last conference thing that we were ever doing as a church, before the whole world shut down. And I had some friends standing and believing that God would speak to me, and I didn't hear the audible voice of God, but I heard an impression by his spirit, and the word was honey. And I instantly thought, am I hungry? Because I love sugar. And I was just like, is this my coffee order, But anyway, I felt that the word that God gave for me over this whole project was that it was to be like honey. It wasn't the name of the album, it wasn't a song title. It was just this word that God gave me that I would keep coming back to, that in the strain and in the stretch of what this new season is of learning to carry and steward something essentially on my own, totally with my husband as well. Thank you, Jesus, for Ben. But it was to be like honey, that it was to be sweet, palatable, easy for people to digest. But the beautiful thing about honey is it has healing qualities on the inside, and that as people would listen to it, and as it goes down, that maybe it would tend and heal some wounds on the inside that people didn't know that needed tending. And so that's my prayer for this. And to be honest, the greatest joy of this entire project, if, don't worry, the album's definitely coming out, but if it wasn't to come out, the greatest joy is that I got to hear the voice of God. And I mean, I couldn't really ask, more than that. And so the thing that I've learned about this transition is, if you can, like I was saying at the start, if you continue to wait upon God and you ask him, He will speak. It may not be in our timing, it may not be what we're expecting him to say, but he will speak. And I could tell you countless times where, like, I asked him, and Ben and I, we prayed and we fasted and we waited, and even moving to California, it's something that we have never dreamed of doing. You know, I travel to America all the time for my work. Like, it's not like I haven't come here before, but we just felt it was like a crazy God opportunity for this next season, for however long it is. You know, we didn't leave anything in Australia. We all in, and we've put no time frame on it either, and you know, and we're aware that we're about to head into the season of having babies and all that kind of stuff, and so that's pretty wild to be away from your family and all that. But when God speaks, to be anywhere else other than where he called you is always going to be second, no matter if it has comfort, money, ease. Like, it's always going to be second to wherever God calls you to be. So I'm learning obedience, and I've been learning to keep my ear out, constantly listening to God in this transition season. Yeah.
So the theme of your song is about God's faithfulness, and you're sharing the message of what you've learned is about waiting and obedience. And I can't help but think that there's probably people who will watch this or hear what you have to say and be like, well, my hands have been open for a really long time, and I've been trying to be faithful, and I'm searching for God's faithfulness, or I'm searching for those answers. What would you say to somebody like that?
Yeah, I would say to take heart, to continue to wait. I love that with God. I mean, if I put it in the perspective of, say, a single season of waiting for that, whoever that person is that God has to come alongside you to do life with, it's an active wait. It's not like you're waiting, you know, Proverbs, it talks about lean not on your own understanding, trust God, and in all your ways acknowledge him, and he'll make your path straight. And it's not a fancy, you know, word that everyone's like shouting at a pie, like can't wait to wait, like how good, you know, but it's rewarding, you know, and we're meant to believe as Christians that we have everything that we need if we have Jesus. And again, I know it's like frustrating when you're in that season to hear that as well, but he's meant to be our all-sufficient one. He's meant to fulfill every desire and every need that we have. And I would just say as well, in the wait, like, put yourself in his presence, remind yourself of who he is, his character, because maybe there's something that he wants to remind you about his all-sufficiency in the season of the wait. I think about in Matthew, Jesus was talking about how, you know, if our Father in heaven was giving a little sparrow a beautiful home, and that if he was clothing the lilies in the greatest clothes ever known to mankind, to the point where it's even better than the clothes of Solomon, who was the richest man that's ever lived, apparently. That's what I've read in the Bible. And he had some sick clothes. And if God would clothe the lilies in greater clothes than that, how much more will he care for you? How much more will he provide for everything that you need? But also he knows before you even ask. But I think he wants us to ask and wants us to draw close because he actually desires relationship with us. We're to be one with the Father, like Jesus and the Father are one. And what a gift, and how beautiful that you're not waiting by yourself. And I get it, it's hard. But I would just say, you know, continue to do all the things that you know to do to put yourself at the feet of Jesus. So that's devotionals, that's your prayer life, that's being planted in a godly community where truth from the Bible is being shared, and that you're going to have accountability in the way as well. Like, because it's tough. Like, and you know, you need to have people that will continue to push you towards God. And you know, I think the greatest friends that you could have are people who have, you know, their, I don't know, like a well-worn, trodden path to Jesus that would pull you along when, for some reason, you're not going there yourself. And yeah, reminding you of it's okay, God's in this.
And prepare to be surprised, because you never know where he's going to work.
That 100%. Oh my gosh, he always does the better than you expect, for sure.
Absolutely.
Real good. This has been a coffee conversation with Taya. We are Jeremy and Amanda. Thank you so much for spending some time with us. Be on the lookout for her song For All My Life on 91.3 WCSG.